Hello, students. This is Dr. Henry, and I'm your instructor for BUS 215 Business Communication. This particular video provides an overview of Chapter 13. Chapter 13 is all about completing business proposals and reports. All right, so for a proposal, you're presenting something. You're presenting an idea or a program that's not yet in existence, but you are proposing to particular stakeholders in your business, whether it's a manager or the owner or the head of some department. You're trying to sell them on this idea that you have. And as you can see on the screen, sometimes proposals are related to allocating resources. So things that your business uses or provides for employees to be able to do whatever it is that business does. They might present new business goals, and they often vary in length. A business proposal could be a short project, or it could be a long-term or new department that does something new that the company hasn't done before. But it all starts with the proposal. All right, so here are some components of a proposal, and similar to a report, they're going to have a cover page. They're going to have an executive summary, which is a very concise overview of the entire report. They're going to discuss the current situation, what's currently going on, specific objectives that the proposal wants to accomplish, deliverables. Those are the things that will be performed or provided as it relates to the proposal. What is the proposal going to do? And then there's going to be a timeline, results enhancers. How's this going to help the business? What is the benefit to the overall business? And then lastly, the cost. Often proposals do have a cost associated with them. All right, so before we get into those specific pieces, the book looks at your overall style or how you want to write or present a proposal, and they present the precision oriented style, and precision just has to do with being exact or spot on. So you don't want to give a business proposal that doesn't have exact figures. For example, you want to be exact with your data. You want to be exact with any numbers you present, because this will help your credibility and help the people you're presenting this proposal to understand what's going on. So as you can see, 2 points related to the precision-oriented style have to do with it needs to be accurate. It needs to document facts. It needs to be based on good reasoning for your conclusions. If you say that, hey, we need this new department because, it needs to be based on well-documented facts. And then the second point talks about a well-stated business problem or challenge. So it needs to solve a business problem or challenge. Here's just a graphic. I'm going to kind of skip by that for the sake of time. Other things that you want to consider in your precision-oriented report is you want to start with a clear statement, use fact-based language, and you're going to see that reiterated time and time again about basing it on facts. You don't want to say, oh, I feel like sales were down last year. No, you need to have the reports that show, hey, sales were down 15% last year because of XYZ. These all are related to the precision-oriented style, and they help give your report more credibility. Also, you want to document your secondary research. For those of you, if you read or you did the Chapter 12 activities, it talked about primary research and secondary research, and you want to avoid plagiarism, using someone else's idea as your own. You always want to give credit to the authors whose work you used to create your report or proposal. Again, it reiterates basing your recommendations on facts and providing specific or actionable recommendations. You don't want to be vague. You want to say, as a result of what you found, as a result of what you want to do with this proposal, you want to do a specific thing. And the book does provide examples of how to write actionable recommendations later in the chapter. Here it has, again, it gives you less effective and more effective ways to write a business problem or statement. And so in order to keep this video from getting too long, I'm going to have to ask you all to read these on your own, but it always gives you a less effective example. So you read how it's written, and then it tells you what's wrong with it, and then it's going to come right back and give you a more effective business statement or problem, and then it tells you why this one is more effective. So on your own time, you do want to take time to read through those. And there are multiple examples of these throughout the book. We talked about fact-based language and how it adds to your credibility. I'm going to skip past that because it also gives examples of that. I'm going to land here on avoiding plagiarism for just a second. So your reference list, which is normally at the end of the report, contains all your sources. And so your sources are the books, the articles, if you did any interviews, if you did survey research, if you had found something online, or you watched a video. There are multiple sources. I know newspaper is kind of an older one, but it could be a newspaper. It could be anything as a source where you gather information to help you craft your proposal or report. You want to give credit to the authors that wrote it. And so the two predominant documentation styles are APA, the American Psychological Association, or MLA, the Modern Language Association styles. And the MLA is normally used in undergraduate studies as well as high school. So if you're pursuing a 2-year degree, associate's degree, or a bachelor's degree, it's likely that your professors may require MLA style. Once you graduate with a bachelor's degree and move on to studying at the master's level or even at the doctorate level, then they're going to require the APA style. So that's kind of how these two break out. But as it relates to business, depending on your audience, I'm going to normally refer to the APA style. All right, so here I'm not going to go through all of these examples, but they give you the style and how you would document that particular source type for that particular style. So the first one is a book, and it shows you the APA style as well as the MLA style right next to each other. And so I'm going to just pull out some of the components for this first one, just so you can see what's there. So you have the author's last name and first initial in APA style. In the other one, you have their, in MLA style, you have their last name and first name typed all the way out. Next, in the APA style, you have the date and the full name of the book, because this is a book that we're referencing. Then it has the city and state that it was published in, as well as the publisher's name. For the MLA style, you have the full book name, but only the publisher and then the date. And so you can see how they're listed differently, but that's because it's the two different styles. But as you can see, they do give credit to the author of the book that they use, for example. Now, the rest of the way, it gives you different source types, and this will be very helpful for you as you craft reports for the different reasons that you may need to craft them for. It talks about if you reference a book, a report, a scholarly journal article, magazine, or other periodical, a conference paper, a web page, a personal interview that you conduct yourself. And then at the very end, it talks about how to cite these in text or in the body of your report. And so here is an example of a reference that has two authors. So this is how you would present it in the APA style. You would list both authors' last names with an ampersand, comma, the date. And then for MLA style, you would just list their names. Now, there are other ways. If you have more than two authors, I'm not sure if you've seen the et al. It's et.al. You'll list the first person and et al. And then if you're doing APA, you'll also list the date. But this is in text. So I want to kind of stop here, I guess, for a second, and I'm going to just show you what that would look like. So if this was the body of my report and I was citing an author, according to APA style, and I don't want to use my own name, I'm going to use a different name. If I was citing Arthur Smith, who wrote something in 2013, this is how I would cite it. This is an in-text citation. So as my reader reads what I wrote, they will say, oh, this thought or this quote came from Smith. Then they could go to my references page, for example, and then they could look that person up. They could see the name of the source, they could see what type of source it is, they could see when it was published. They would have all the information that they needed if they also wanted to go and look that up for themselves. So I just kind of wanted to show you all what that looks like. And I'm sure you've seen that before when you've read something where you actually see those things represented. So I'm gonna go back to full screen, and this next slide just talks about please avoid plagiarism. And so the ways you can do that is to understand when you're pulling something from other sources. So you want to document every time you get an idea from someone else. Now, sometimes those ideas may be a direct quote where you quote out verbatim exactly what they said and you put it in quotation marks. You might paraphrase it or summarize it. You want to give credit to that author or authors. And then if you borrow an idea, so if you're reading their information and something that they said is an idea or concept that you use in your paper, you also need to give credit for that to that author when you are writing your work or report. Okay, here are examples of that precision-oriented style that we're looking at, where it talks about how do you come from a recommendation to a conclusion. So it needs to be well thought out. So here they start with a business fact, and then they start with a reasonable, and then they lead to a reasonable conclusion, and then it leads to a reasonable recommendation. So you want to read these just as examples, because the recommendation would be what you would present to your audience in the report or proposal, but it needs to be based on facts. And so this just kind of shows you an example of that. There again, they give you more ways to write it up to make it more or less effective, or they want to show you what is less effective and more effective. So for the sake of time, I'm going to skip through those examples because you can read through those in the book or in the PowerPoint. Other tips, you want to make sure your report is easy to navigate. There are pretty much 3 sections to the report. You're going to have front matter, what's at the beginning, text in the middle, and back matter, what's at the end. And so the next few slides give you examples of different reports. And the first one is a survey report, and some of you may remember that from chapter 12, where you're pretty much giving a survey to the people that you want to receive the information from. A trend report looks at a data point, for example, sales over time. Next, you may do a business plan where you are presenting a new business. Next, you may do a business proposal where you're presenting a new idea or a new program. The other ones that they have, a strategic plan. This is if you want to take the company in a different direction, you have to have a plan for that. And then a progress report. If you're updating the company on what has gone on with a proposal or other plan, for example, you want to present the progress or how far it's come or what you've been able to accomplish. And then a SWOT analysis. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so this is when you want to venture out into a new business or add something. You might do a SWOT analysis for that. And then a marketing plan. Once you have a new idea or a new product, then you have to have a plan for how you're going to market it to your target audience. Lastly, an annual report is a report of the current health and status of the company. It often looks at where the company is financially. Is it financially stable? Those are the kind of things that an annual report will include. The last thing I want to look at is the key features of a report. A completed report needs to add value to the decision makers. It needs to help them make a good decision. And then, of course, all the other things, it needs to be precise. It needs to have documentation. It needs to be easy to navigate. And it needs to be free from bias. So it needs to be objective. Finally, tips. You want to discuss the report with the decision makers during the process so that you can tailor it to what they need. Run through it a couple of times from a different perspective and definitely remove all typos. Thanks for watching.